Hi there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to a new Football Talks Power Rankings edition going into Week 14. Let's just jump right into it and start with Tier 4, teams 25 through 32. There's been a bit of a shift, a little bit, not by much. The 49ers have jumped up 2 spots, which you would think, why? They're 2 and 10. It's who's starting at quarterback. Jimmy G, good old Jimmy G, I started, and it wasn't a pretty game. Barely winning, but you know what? There's at least some hope with San Fran. And remember, you might have a good draft pick still by the end of this, and you're gonna get healthy next year. You're gonna get Garcon back, and all that. So who knows? This may be a bad season, but there is a lot of reason for optimism. And remember, you bamboozled the Bears out of their picks because they panicked for Mitch Trubisky, who perhaps it's still too soon to say, but I don't think he was worth that second-round pick as things stand now. Can't say the same for Houston, but to be fair, their quarterback's out for the year, and they still choked. They had a 10-0 lead. It seems if the Texans get a lead, they're going to lose. So, yeah, I mean, the ironic thing is they're just above the 49ers, but that's because those two are about to play this week. So, yeah, not a game to note, obviously. That's a tank match-off, and the Texans absolutely need to have that win. But we'll see. Anyway, let's move on to Tier 3. At the top of the list, it's the Cowboys. Cowboys only went up 1 spot, and some would say, why is that? It's, to be honest, I still don't think they can make a playoff run. They have to win practically every single game, and even then, it's not a guarantee because, like I said, 10-6 may not guarantee you a playoff spot. It's that tough for the NFC, as I've strained many times. Like, some people had the Packers at, 13, 12? No. There's no Aaron Rodgers there. I'd understand if you had Aaron Rodgers there, but you don't. You just have Brent Hundley, who you could say is getting a little better, but regardless, the Packers team at best is an 8-8 team, and that's pretty much where I have them going. Which I guess you could say kudos to the organization for saving the season and going 8-8. No, you don't want to do that. That's stupid. If you lost all of your reason for the playoffs, just tank. Embrace the tank for the rest of the year and get a solid enough draft pick, unless you're a team like the Texans or the Chiefs who don't have a first round pick. Speaking of the Chiefs are in free fall mode. I had them for what, 14 to 8 now 18. Yikes, this team is, oh boy. And then they have to host the Raiders, which I think they should win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they fuck it up. I don't know. The Chiefs' free fall is real right now, so that should be fun if that keeps up. As for let's see, let's say a team like Washington, who played Dallas, I don't know how they got in that hole. Kirk Cousins is, for all the talk I gave him, I was like, oh, he should be a sneaky Pro Bowl candidate. He actually chokes and messes up at the beginning of the game. It's bad. I know his team's not giving him any help. If I were him, I'd bail and go to Denver because Denver could use a big, which I should have mentioned. I forgot to mention, I put the Broncos at 30 because they, oh boy, it doesn't matter who they put at quarterback. They're all trash. So how about that? John Elway's the greatest GM. He knows what quarterback to get. Get that shit out of here. John Elway's not that good of a GM. He's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. He got 2 Super Bowls at the end of his career. He could have had more, but yeah, just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're good at everything. But anyway, let's move on to Tier 2, the frisky tier. Even though most of these teams are very likely not going to stay in this area for too long, like the Jets. I hit the Jets here because they beat the Chiefs in a good old upset of the week that I called. I called that one coming. I called that on the podcast. I don't think I said that here, but oh boy. Jets fans are happy, but they know they should tank. They're not going to get one of those shiny QBs. They could sure use one, but whatever, man, I guess. I mean, they might let Todd Bowles might keep his job, which is good for him, I guess. The Lions, surprisingly, I couldn't really move them because I don't think they're worse than the Jets because they have Stafford, but at the same time, they can't stop any wide receivers that run for their lives. The cornerbacks just Darius Slay's good. Glover Quinn is good, but they still need a big, bad corner who can keep up with those other big players and just keep them and get physical and don't let them go anywhere. But, oh, man. Anyway, let's talk about the actual frisky AFC teams who are rising really quickly. Even though they're moving up barely, just know they're doing a lot better. For example, you got Baltimore and the Chargers still neck and neck. They both only moved up one. The Chargers because they beat the Browns. The Ravens should go higher, but I have to keep them above the Jags because of that. They played each other, and well, the Jags decimated them. So, also, speaking of the Jags, you got a big game this week, and you beat the Colts, which is why I only moved you up once. I don't want to... Actually, I know there's that Jags fan that was in my comments lately. I know he disliked one of my videos. If I see him today giving me crap, I have to ask you, man, where were you last week when you choked to the Cardinals? Where were you when Blake Bortles threw that costly interception? Oh, sure, you had a great game on Sunday, but you played the Colts. That's nothing to be proud of. You beat the Colts. That's about as trying to boast as like, look at us. We beat the Cleveland Browns. We're going to the Super Bowl. No, come on. Go beat another real team, and then we'll talk. But just keep winning your games, Jags, and face the Titans on the inevitable Week 17 Sunday Night Football, because I want that for sheer irony. For the past couple of years, they've always shoved Jags and Titans on Thursday Night Football, so nobody needed to watch it. It's like, oh, these two need a primetime game, and they both suck, so let's just put it here. And now, when everything's all said and done, they have to put Titans-Jags on Week 17 SNF. I'm going to laugh because Al and Chris are like, oh, but I wanted my NFC East. I wanted my Cowboys-Eagles Sunday Night Football. Ah, fuck you two. The Cowboys are overrated. They're done, especially without Zeke, and the Eagles are gonna run away with it. Hell, the Eagles could fall asleep, and the Cowboys will give them the division, because all the Cowboys need to do is lose a game today, or if the Eagles just win this week, that's it. The Eagles would have to straight up tank, not win a single game, and the Cowboys would have to win out in order to take the division. But all the Eagles need to do is win either one game or let the Cowboys lose another. And I can't tell you which is coming faster, but I know one of them is coming today. Maybe both. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, Titans still above the Jaguars just because of that they beat them. And to be honest, I don't think they're that much different in terms of as a team overall, their composition. Because the Titans know how to handle the Jags. Case in point, they kicked their asses. They humbled their asses last year. And they kicked their asses so hard, the Jags Twitter took out Saxonville from the name. That's how bad it was. That's how humiliating it was. But now, let's move on to Tier 1, teams 8 through 1, the top 8. Well, Seattle, I gotta say, even though you only moved up 3 spots, it's a shame I couldn't move you up more, but I just can't given the records of the other teams. But my respect for you has increased. I really wanted to pick you guys, and I should have. Would have helped me a lot in the picks against Bill. But good job. You beat the number 1 team, which I'll get to them in a moment, but I just want to address. I dropped Pittsburgh just because they've been barely beating teams that shouldn't have any business keeping up with them. Sometimes it's been a mix of playing down to their team's level, to the enemy team's level, because they're always bad on the road. But even against the Packers, the Packers game to me was the red flag, and now you barely lost. And to top it off, you might have lost. You probably have lost Ryan Shazier for the year, and that is a very tough injury. Juju Smith is suspended for a game, which that's also going to hamper. But Ryan Shazier, man, I hope he's okay. I think he's going to be okay because they haven't found anything dangerous inside of him or anything dangerous that's gone wrong with him. But I hope he's fine because that spine injuries are no joke. Or really any injury is no joke, but that especially because the last thing you want a player to do is like if they can't play, as long as they're at least able to function normally, it's all good. But you know, you don't want him to. I don't want to think that, but he's not out of the woods yet. He's still in the woods, like still deep in the woods. We're gonna find out what the doctors find out in time. But just hope he's okay. That's all I can say. I don't know. Oh, prayers up for this guy. No, I mean if there's something that people could do to help him, we do it. But if not, just let the doctors do it. The doctors are going to do their best. Anyway, let's move on to the top 5. Rams are number 4 still, but the Saints have taken the the Steelers spot at number 5 because I just think they are going well on their way to be a solid NFC contender. The NFC playoff games are going to all look good at this rate, but of course we're going to get disappointed. I have a feeling Titans Jags in the playoffs is going to be the most interesting playoff game the whole year. That's how bad it's going to be. No, I know I love the teams coming into the NFC playoff picture, but let's be real, they're not going to please us. Maybe one game will. I don't know what game will on the NFC side, but to be honest, I have this sneaky feeling it's going to be a big disappointment for one game. Anyway, look where the Eagles are. They lose one game and they go down 2 spots. They're no longer the number 1 team. Why? A lot of reasons why. They got owned by a quarterback who was doing everything on his own, and Carson Wentz wasn't doing them any favors until it was garbage time. Are the Eagles in trouble? Nah, I wouldn't say that. They have plenty of time to get their shit together. They could still get that bye week, but right now, the Vikings have the number 1 spot in the NFC as things stand now. If both teams were to win out, the Vikings would probably have the number 1 seed. But we'll see about that. And the Vikings are number 2 because of that, because I think the Vikings are the second best team, only held back by the number 1 team, the Throne of Ease, back on top, back on the overall NFL throne, not just the AFC throne. The Throne of Ease, this chair is comfy, it's good to have it back. The Patriots back on top because Tom Brady is the goddamn football god. And oh boy, it must be fun for a Patriots fan again. Like, look at us, we're going to the dance again. I mean, the only team that can possibly stop the Patriots are the Steelers. And let's be honest, considering how the Steelers have been barely beating bad teams, it's not that wrong to think right now that the Patriots are going to crush them. I know they're going to lose Rob Gronkowski for a game, but that's not the game. 2 weeks from now, we're going to have that big game between the Patriots and the Steelers. The Patriots win, they have the first seed all but theirs. But right now, this is still the Patriots conference to lose. And in fact, it might be the whole Super Bowl to lose. The only teams I could see on the NFC side that could possibly think of beating the Patriots are the Saints and maybe the Vikings. I only say maybe the Vikings because I just don't know how Case Keenum will do in the playoffs. And I love Case Keenum. I would love for him to be successful. But to be honest, I don't still want to give the Vikings a Super Bowl. Why did we let him go again? Houston, why did you do that? I mean, I love Watson, don't get me wrong, but I kind of miss Case Keenum. Not as much as I miss Deshaun Watson, mind you, but yeah, it would be nice to have him. Anyway, that'll do it for right now. There you go. Any last notes I feel like I need to make? Nah, I think about it. No, just the Eagles should be fine. I don't know how, like I said, none of this matters until they get in the playoffs. The playoffs result that's going to determine everything because the Eagles like to choke everything. I guess it runs in the type of species, given that the Falcons and Eagles are both birds. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the 5 games to note. Oh boy. So let's start off with the first game. Thursday Night Football. We have an actual really good Thursday Night Football game potentially. In the Saints at the Falcons. The Falcons' last stand. You gotta win here if you want to stay in the playoff hunt because, like I said, 10-6 may not guarantee you anything. You may need an 11-5 record or greater just to get a wild card spot because the 4 spots are virtually locked up. However, should the Falcons win, that actually gives the Saints no guarantee. But for now, the Saints have I would say a bit of a tough challenge, but I don't think it's anything they can't overcome. Second game to note, I'm going to give you Vikings-Panthers, another NFC South team in this mix, as well as perhaps the best team in the NFC. They've got the best defense, that's for sure. I know people say the Jags defense is historic, but something feels more complete about this Vikings defense because they're much more, how do I put it? I feel like they commit stuff like personal fouls less, and well, I think they just don't give up as much points. I will say the Jags have the better turnover rate though, and I think that's also important. And that's honestly what you prefer. I may prefer turnovers, but I just like this defense from the Vikings more because it just feels so balanced, and it has even though I feel like its pass rush may not be the greatest thing ever, I feel like it's just so effective for what it does. But anyway, that's just preferences at this point. Vikings can just take this first seed practically with this win, and if the Eagles lose, because honestly, I don't think any other team can get a better record than the Vikings if they can't be stopped. If they can win out, I'm pretty sure they're going to run away with that first seed. But we'll see. The Panthers, on the other hand, if they lose this, they may actually have their wild card spot in jeopardy. I'll grant you this. They still have some leeway, because remember, they have the edge over the Lions, and they have the edge over the Falcons. But, like I said, they just need to focus on getting a 10-6 record, have a match or be better than those two teams, and they should be good to go. We'll see. Anyway, my third game I want to give you is, these are all late games now. We're in the prime time era, or prime time section now, and it's all good, juicy games from here. Trust me, the afternoon games, there's a couple good ones like the Vikings game I mentioned, but these last three, oh boy, either one you get, no matter where you're at, you're in for a treat. You're going to have, like I said, the all-out war for the NFC, Eagles at Rams. They're staying at the West Coast, and well, actually this game may be at jeopardy because of some fires near LA, but let's hope that don't happen. Let's hope those fires get put out. But anyway, Eagles at Rams should be a good NFC game. This may very well also decide if the Rams are a true contender for their division crown, or are the Seahawks inevitably going to climb back and take it back. Should the Rams win this, they can probably win this whole thing, like win the whole division. But if the Eagles win, they've wrapped up and won theirs, and they're still on course for a possible bye week. This game can determine which of these two teams has a shot at a bye week. My fourth game is going to be Seahawks-Jags. This one got moved down, actually. It was originally a 12 o'clock game, but now it's a 4:30 game, and it's for the best, because this game's actually really good. Seahawks-Jags, you're in for a good treat, like I said. But this is a really good defense against Russell Wilson. This is going to be, you might see how good Russell Wilson could be if he can just hang around against this top defense against AJ Bouye and Jalen Ramsey, who to me, Jalen Ramsey has to be considered as a defensive player of the year, because I really wish he went to Dallas. I really wish Dallas drafted him, because that man is a savage on the field. I don't know, he has eyes on the ball and keeps players from getting to it, so should be something to know. However, at the same time, Blake Bortles is playing against a better defense. Despite them losing some key players like Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas, they're still hanging around. I don't think this will last forever, but hey, this is Blake Bortles. If Blake Bortles was to have a meltdown, this is perhaps the only defense left on the schedule that makes sense for him to fuck up against. I have the Seahawks winning this one. Also, I do have the Rams and the Panthers winning, and a bit of an upset of the week for all those. But yeah, Seahawks, I think they're going to win, keep their playoff hopes alive. Jags, I mean, you're fine as long as you keep up a little bit with the Titans. And finally, the last game on my list, Ravens-Steelers. I didn't expect this. If the Ravens lost to the Texans or the Lions, I wouldn't have put them on here. Instead, I probably would have picked not Washington Chargers. I probably would have picked Raiders-Chiefs as my curveball. I don't have a curveball for you this week, because there's a lot of good ones, and this is why. This one took it back. This looks like a potential bloodbath. I don't think so. I think we're going to be greatly disappointed. I have a feeling the Steelers are just going to blow out this defense again, like it's the back of their hand. Because one of the few games that the Steelers do better against on the road is against Baltimore, but surprisingly, they're not as good as home against Baltimore. But I have a feeling all they need to do win this game, they've won their division too. But if the Ravens come up here, they'll be 8-5, and they control their own destiny. Hell, they already do. 9-7 will be enough for you to get a wild card spot here. So after that, you just need one more game, practically. Either way, Ravens, they look like they're in good shape, but I just don't know. However, the losses of Juju Smith and Ryan Shazier could possibly affect this game. I don't think so, just because I expect the Pittsburgh offense to just keep rolling. I don't know. We'll see. It should be a good game, but I just have a feeling it's going to be something akin to that first game. Perhaps with maybe a bit less of Antonio Brown beating the shit out of Gatorade coolers. That'd be appreciated. So there you go. You've got your 5 games. So that's Saints at Falcons, Vikings at Panthers, Eagles at Rams, Seahawks at Jags, and Ravens at Steelers. Should be a good week of football. I think it is. If you disagree with anything on this power ranking spot, feel free to chime in. Just don't be a dick about it. It's all I ask. But yeah, you go ahead, have the discussion. I welcome it. But anyway, that'll do it for this week. I'll see you guys for week 15, and it should be a good week of football, or so I hope at least. I'll see you guys then.